So since we're talking about dating, is it true that online dating is the hated site?
It depends on how you look at it. For guys, it kind of goes both ways. If we're looking for relationships, it can be difficult because, frankly, women probably get approached more than men. So, for certain women, they're going to have a lot more suitors out there, both online and in person. Whereas for guys, we have to do the approaching for the most part. So when you get to online dating, there is always this perception that if a woman's on online dating, there might be something off, at least as a guy, from a guy's perspective. That was a
What do
common
you mean by
concept.
that?
So, if you are attractive, you're going to get approached. If you have a great personality, you'll probably get approached by people that that you talk to. If you have a good job, you'll probably interact with people kind of in that stratosphere.
Right.
So, if you have a really good, and this, again, this isn't everyone. I mean, it's typically if you have one of those characteristics, you're probably not going to be on a dating app. And
Did you just say that?
I said typically.
Oh, okay.
And I realize that's an odd thing to say, but I mean, you probably have noticed it with guys. The guys that are on there are the whole reason you're on there is because you haven't found somebody that, checks all the boxes. And that's how it was for me too when I was dating. I mean, I probably went on dates with about 100 women, so my success rate was 1%. So,
Okay, so I was listening to one of the videos from a relationship coach, and he said looking for the one online is the same as looking for Jesus in hell. Was that your experience? Did you feel like you were just wasting your time there?
I don't think I was wasting my time. I honestly had a fun time going on all of my dates. Every single date, I got something out of it. And, we spoke about those initial interactions. So, whenever we are kind of going into dating, talking to somebody, you've probably been on, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, 200 dates, who knows? And so I always just kept this open mindset of, I'm just going to be a completely open book with this person. And I hope she's an open book with me just to kind of get to know her, who she is. And, it's probably going to bomb, but I might learn something new. And I can honestly say on every date I went on, it was entertaining, either in the moment or something that happened afterwards.
Right. I can see the entertainment part of it. I can totally see that. And it's the way that you look at dates. It's a mindset of how you approach dating. If you approach it with a mindset of I'm going to have a good time, whatever it is, I'm just going to come out of it with something, either a perspective or like I'm learning a new activity or just even being physical, even if you have good sex and that's all you get out of it. That's one way to look at it. So I can see that going with the right mindset, it would not be as daunting. It would not be as awful.
What kind of mindset do you have?
Well, I don't know because it depends. Like, so when you started dating, how old were you?
Dating online?
Yeah.
26.
Okay, so 26, and when I started dating, I was 41. Big difference.
Maybe.
Because a lot of people your age that you're dating are in the same stage of having fun and being open-minded and being adventurous and not really having too many responsibilities. And then you hit my stage, women in their 40s. Dude, you got people that were married 3 times, divorced 3 times. They have kids. They have a lot of responsibilities. They're jaded. They got trust issues. I got trust issues. So we're not meeting each other like in the right mind space. Like we're not going in with the open mind, like you said. Like I would love to go on a date and meet somebody that has an open mind and they can be themselves and they can just talk about anything. Usually that's not what you get. So it's a little it's a little hard to be yourself when you date people at this age.
Why is
So-
that? How does that affect communication?
Because people are holding back in a way.
Why would you do that when you're older?
You do that because you have so much more to risk.
Mm.
Like when you're dating somebody and you have children and they have children, like it's something that you don't want to share too much about yourself because you could have like certain things that could turn the other person off. Like if you say I was married 3 times, I would be like, God, and you still didn't get it right, like.
But wouldn't you want to know that up front?
Yes, I would, but then they would not be very sincere about why they went through 3 failed marriages.
Okay. All right.
Because opening up on those topics, it could put them in a place where I may judge them, which I probably will, depending on the reason that they split up. Let's say they cheated, or let's say they were not taking care of the family or the kids, and these are things that we're going to talk about later. But there could be some things they don't want to share right away because they want me to see their good side, their representative, and after getting comfortable that they may start sharing certain details of their relationships or their past behaviors. And it depends if they did any work or not, but most haven't. They just come in, the way that they left the last marriage.
So it sounds like it's a lot of trust. So before getting to that point, you have the first date, which I think can be very daunting.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a woman, because typically, at least in my experience, when it came to going on that first date, it was me asking. So, whenever you were asked to go out on a date, and for whatever reason you say yes, what would you want to do on that first date? What is safe?
Safe would be safe as you mean.
What would you want to do?
Physically safe.
What would you, if someone,
Or-
you agreed to hang
Because
out with
it
a guy
depends.
online?
Okay, so I agree to hang out with a guy online. I would like to be in a place where we can communicate, where we can talk for like an hour or so. So we're not really doing something that would interrupt the conversation. Because the first date, it's kind of like the first time that you are face to face with this person and you can actually see their facial expressions and if they make eye contact, if they like you, their body language. So you just want to be uninterrupted. So I usually prefer lunch or coffee and like a walk. Like if you can just grab a coffee and go for a walk at a park or a beach, it's still safe because you're around other people, and also you're able to talk to them and listen to them in a way that you don't have to also like sit right in front of each other.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like an interview session.
I believe that coffee dates are probably the most safe. I think that's a great way just to have communication. Because, going to a bar, grabbing a drink, it kind of has this connotation to it.
I feel that, and I don't want to sound like, I love grabbing a drink at a bar, okay? Sometimes it's nothing cooler than just be like, hey, do you want to grab a drink? It's Wednesday night, we're not planning this romantic date. Let's just go grab a drink, see if we hit it off. But exactly that hit it off word. I think that's like, yes, we hit it off, and then what happens after? And it kind of like derails, the date goes into a different direction. It could be a good direction for some people, but if you're really looking to get to know somebody, that drink can just become a very fun night.
That's why I was always a drink person. Always went to drinks first. If they said no, then I would, switch it to coffee. But, the drinking has a connotation. When you grab dinner, it's like, what do I order? What do I get? I don't want to, whatever it is.
Well,
when you grab...
You should never order anything that makes you burp. That's one thing.
Okay.
Or anything too garlicky.
You sound like you've been scarred by that
Totally.
before.
Yes.
Okay, so I agree. Coffee date's a great one. Going for walks. It's a little bit. I could like going for coffee, going for a walk. I think it's perfect. So you get that first date set up. You guys, whatever is coffee, drinks, or whatever.
Let's call
So
it a preview. I think everybody needs a preview.
so one question that I've always had as a guy, and this was something I always struggled with. Well, I actually have two questions now that I think about it. You set the date, and then what do you do after that? Do I continue texting you, or is it okay? We have plans in a couple of days. I'm just gonna go hands off. Do you continue that
It
communication?
depends. It depends. Like, let's say we just started talking, right? And we've exchanged maybe 4 or 5 texts. So you don't know much about me, I don't know much about you. And then you're like, all right, I would, like some guys would tell me, do you prefer to meet right away, face to face, or would you like to chat here some more to get to know each other here before? And I prefer to meet. Like, the sooner the better. You see if you have a connection or any type of chemistry with the person before you before you become friends online, right? So when you go to the date, when you set the date, it's like, have you booked a trip? Like, if you book a trip, but you're never looking at the place that you're going to visit until the day that you leave, doesn't that, like, make you not think about your trip much? Like, to kind of put it in the back burner?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just always felt like, you set the date, you set the time, you're good to go. And so it's like, okay, well, what are you doing tonight? It's just it to me. I found it difficult to continue with the conversation because you, quote unquote, have a time to meet. You can continue conversation. It's just
Well, you can meet 3
segue.
days later or 4 days. It depends on your schedule. So what if you set the date for 4 days later? In these 4 days, you don't have to be like, so what's up, what you're doing? You can just stay in touch by asking questions, which would be like good too. Like, what do you like to do when you go on dates? Or tell me a little bit about your job. Like, you can just do some questions that will prepare you for your date. So when you go on the date, you kind of have a little bit of familiarity with this person, because, I mean, I personally think that you gotta be a little bit excited to go on a date, right?
So I set a date and I say, all right, cool, looking forward to it. Would you say something in response to that? Would you try and continue the conversation? Well, yeah, we'll start with that.
I would not. If you set the date and then you said, I look forward to it, which means, you just basically sent me an email where, you scheduled the next meeting, then no, I don't have anything else to say because it implies that we're going to have this conversation when we meet.
So you would prefer after
I would prefer keeping in touch.
Okay.
Even if you just say, hope you have a good day today. Like, something to let me know that you don't just schedule dates like meetings at work,
Gotcha.
That they mean something to you, that there is, like, you may have 4 dates this week, with 4 different people, and I get that. But I don't want to feel like I am the second or the third or the fourth person that you're dating. I want to feel that I'm special, that in a way you are excited to meet me. You do want to, what's the word? Anticipate. It creates some type of anticipation to the date. So I don't forget about you.
Gotcha. So is it always good to follow up about the date? So day of, that morning, you're like, hey, are you still good for this time? Is that a good practice?
That conversation, that's what keeping in touch in
Okay.
between comes in. Because if I haven't heard from you in 3 days and today is date night, I have no idea if we're still on, if you still remember that you have a date tonight, or who you're having the date with.
Is there ever a time where someone would cancel a date and you'd be like, let's reschedule? Or anytime someone cancels a date, it's like, okay, this is a no-go.
I've had that. Yeah, both have happened. So one of the guys, he canceled 1 hour before the date. And he kept in touch the entire time, up to that hour. And then he's like, oh, something happened. And I'm like, well, this better be something like, I'd like to continue seeing you in ER because I'm stuck there for the rest of the night, because that would be the only excuse that I can take. Like, shit, what happened? Like, you're talking to me, like 30 minutes ago. That's a no-go. I would not trust that. 1 hour, it's just, I think it's disrespectful to do it, but you could have a very good reason, which I'm not going to accept. But.
Man, I gotta admit, I was pretty stupid when it came to that. There was this one girl in particular I could remember. She, frankly, was very attractive. She would stay in contact. She went to the gym, so she would send me gym pics and stuff like that. So I was like, okay. And so we would set times to meet up. And this happened on 4 different occasions, to where we would set a time, we were going to hang out, we were going to spend pretty much the day together. And then the day of, she would ghost me. And
so she would do that
she
all
would
the time?
She would ghost me. And so there was just several times.
I'm sorry. I'll give you a minute. You need to recover from it?
No, it's just I was so dumb doing it over and over and over.
I don't think it's dumb at all. I think it's the game. I think this is what they do. They just want to keep you on the hook.
Well, she would reel me in. She's still like, oh my God, I had a good day at the gym. Send me a pic. I was just like, damn it, I'm on the hook.
She would work you up.
She would. She played me like a fiddle. I hated it.
That's really wrong. Yeah. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
It was tough, but there were times where I did it. There was this one person, and I eventually went on a date with her. But there were multiple stints where I was on the app. And each time we would set a time to meet up. And this is going to sound harsh, but she was about a 7. And so when an 8 or 9 was just like, yeah, let's meet, I would bump her.
Yeah.
So if we're meeting on Thursday and an 8 or 9's like, hey, let's meet on Thursday, I'd be like, oh, shoot, I can't make it this Thursday, blah, blah, blah happened. And this happened multiple times, to where I would get on the app, I would set a time with her, and then I would meet somebody, get off the app for a bit, and then we would set it again, and finally we went on the date. But, every time she was just like, yeah, let's meet up. Let's do it, whatever, who cares?
She was always available.
She was always available.
Yeah, she never gave you that, I better act right with this one, or I'm never going to see her again.
Yeah.
I guess you're not that excited. I mean, it all depends if you're into the person. And you're always going to bump for an 8 or 9. I mean, you are.
Maybe
you got bumped for an 8 or 9.
I wasn't.
From the gym girl.
I wasn't 8 or 9, but.
Well, at least you got that going, confidence.
But I did it so many times because I thought these women were very attractive, and I was like, okay, if I could just get them out, even though they've canceled on me multiple times, at least I get their pants, and then whatever, who cares?
Yeah. It's an ego thing, right? So it's more of an ego thing.
It kind of was. And it's a very slimy thing to do, but it is what it is. So...
Well, good thing you got over it. And you're in a much better place.
Much better place, but it doesn't mean it doesn't haunt me.
All right, so because I know that we can go down this rabbit hole, and we have a lot of experiences to share.
Uh-huh.
So we got the first date. We're on the first date. Nobody canceled, right? Mm-hmm. We don't like anybody cancel an hour before. Or if they cancel, should they reschedule?
So if they were attractive enough, I would reschedule. If they canceled it and I was already on the fringe, I probably wouldn't reschedule. Unless I was desperate.
Okay, so what if you canceled because something happened? Or what would be valid reasons?
Why I would cancel?
What are some of the valid reasons that you would cancel a date?
If I was bumping them for somebody else, which isn't valid.
Well,
but
no, it's real. I mean,
okay,
yeah.
All right. So bumping them for somebody else, that was really the only reason. Like sometimes my friends would go grab drinks, maybe I would do it for them. And sometimes what I would do to kind of get myself out of it, I'd be like, hey, my friends invited me out for drinks tonight. I know we had some plans. Do you want to come out? They would always say no, of course. So I kind of was able to get out of the date without canceling.
Those were probably people you're not really into, right? Because who cancels a date, a chance to have sex, to go out with their friends when they can see their friends the rest of the week?
Yeah, I mean,
So you're not like dying to see them.
that's true. I would never cancel with somebody that I was excited to see.
Right. So, okay. So even though the games are, a lot more present lately in the dating world, it still comes down to if you're really into somebody, you just don't cancel. And you
Yeah.
don't do it an hour before.
Yeah.
So now it makes me feel like shit because now I know that the number one reason that I was canceled now before is because I was freaking bumped for an 8 or 9. Okay.
I'm
all
not
right,
saying
all
that's
right.
every time. I mean,
I wasn't even rescheduled. Like, all right, okay.
well, it
It's
it,
okay.
it is
It's,
what
I
it
can
is.
take it. I can take it. I can take it. Just, I
It-
hope it doesn't happen too often.
So, when you get to that first date, let's say, whatever it is, you're grabbing drinks, you're grabbing coffee, you're grabbing whatever, you know, whenever you first walk up to the person, do you hug them? Do you shake their hand? Like, what? Do you just stand there with your hands to your
It's
side?
awkward. Actually, it's a good question because I had this conversation with my other friend. Um, so it depends. It all depends on the consistency of communication with that person, right? Like if you've been communicating with them and you learn things about them and you feel familiar, then it's like, oh hey, because that's a familiar person in your mind. But if you didn't communicate with them, if you don't know much except for like, what do you do for a living? Which side of town do you live? If that's all you know and then you see them, they're still a stranger. Like you're still a stranger. Like I don't know if I want you close to my body if I've never, if I don't have like a sense of familiarity with you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Did you hug everybody?
I was a hugger. For sure a hugger. And I would
Is it a guy thing maybe? Like just giving the woman like the affection?
well, a handshake is too formal. And me standing there with my arms to the sides not smooth. So what I would typically do is I would walk up, and if I could tell they weren't into it, I would just be like, okay, let's go inside, or whatever. But if someone's not actively moving back or giving any kind of signs,
Right.
hug every time. I was a hugger.
Hug every time?
No,
Okay.
no shame in it. I hugged
Okay.
every time.
So it's not awkward to
Yeah.
hug.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, before you even get to that point, do you like it when guys offer to pick you up for a date?
It's sweet. It's very like I had two guys that asked me that. And one was like, I can come pick you up. And the other one was more of, oh hey, just want to ask you, are you okay if I pick you up? Would you like me to pick you up? So that was like a little more gentle. I think it's really sweet because it has like a little old fashioned
Okay.
into it. Like
So I did do that
really
too.
like a gentlemanly
Yeah.
thing. I like that. I mean, I'm in it. You know how it is, but it's also creepy
Yeah.
because in
Yeah.
today's age, like yes, I would love to be picked up. That's very nice of you. It's very thoughtful. I respect it. I don't know if I want you to know where I live, and I don't know if I want my neighbors to see you.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I asked every time, and I don't remember anyone ever saying yes, but they all made the same comment, like, "Oh, that was sweet. I appreciate it."
Yeah. Yeah, I
So-
said the same thing. I think it's sweet, but I think guys should still ask because, it definitely gets them some points, for sure. But they shouldn't be offended if the woman says, not this time,
Okay. All right. So you don't pick them up. You get to wherever you're meeting. You hug them. Now you're sitting down. So
The,
so whenever I started the interaction, it was always, I was very forward. You can ask my fiance so we sat down, we started talking, and then probably within a couple of minutes, I was talking about this date I went on with this girl that said she was a witch. So I typically approached very It was never just a simple "How are you doing? How's your day?" Blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's weird.
It got pretty intense fast, and
Yeah.
sometimes we would go into like during the BLM movement, we would talk about that, or during the Me Too movement. I would bring up those topics because
You're
one,
very brave to bring up those topics on a first date.
well, and I'll tell you why. It's because I've always been told that I have this face or aura about me that people will tell me anything.
You do.
So what I love to do is to go ahead and open the topic so I could hear, what they're talking, their thoughts, how
Right.
they are.
Right.
And, there were a couple, I can think of this one person in particular. As actually two different women, but one was different than the other. But I started talking about how I like books. I love reading. And I was reading this book at the time called Invisible Women. It was talking about how women aren't taken into account when it comes to, making cell phones. It's not made for women's hands, or seatbelts. It's not made for that. And she switched the topic to how, she doesn't believe that women get cheated. Oh, and I also mentioned how the Google CEO implemented pregnancy parking because she was pregnant. She, realized how difficult it is to walk whenever you're pregnant. So she goes, I don't believe in that. And I go, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, I don't think pregnant women should have preferential parking. And I go, tell me more. She was all about autonomy. So if a woman gets knocked up, that was her choice to get knocked up, so she has to live with it. And so I know it was a first date, but so I loved egging people on to see how far they would go. So I mentioned, it's because she also said she didn't believe people that were disabled should be able to park in handicap parking. There should be no handicap parking. And I said, well, what about people that are born with no legs? She said, that's just how it is. You shouldn't ruin it for everybody else.
Who do they ruin it for?
People that wanted to park closer. Anyone else?
And why would they park closer if they? Anyway, I don't want to get there, but I can see how touching certain topics that people are very passionate about. I mean, just ask them what they're passionate. Just let them talk, and they're just gonna definitely go on.
Well, I had to start with something that was very revealing about me. And I think that was my best way of getting people to talk about that stuff, because she started talking about how any woman that is sexually assaulted, it's always her fault, no matter the circumstances. And so at that,
How long did you date her?
I didn't date her at all.
I'm so proud of you.
Well,
Because I'm just getting right now.
Well, so
Okay.
it's because she was a Calvin Klein model, and so she started. Whenever we first sat down, she started
Maybe
showing
we
me
shouldn't say
photos.
Calvin Klein model here with that type of mentality.
Well, this was one person. This was a rogue
Okay.
person, but. And so after we were done, she was like, "Hey, do you want to go back to my place?" And I was just like, "I can't. I'm sorry. I have plans." So
Why did you say no?
I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Why?
Anyone that has that mindset, she was probably a freak.
But a freak, not in a good way, right?
Well, probably in a good way in the bed, but
Like a scary way?
I'm okay with scary.
Oh.
It's just I couldn't do that with someone that had those kind of views. So I guess my question for you is, what kind of conversation is that too deep, or what kind of conversations
No, I
are safe
love
to
those
have?
conversations. I
So
mean,
just go straight into it.
Yeah, straight into it. Anybody that would just start talking about something that it's like a controversial issue of something, and they want to know my opinion, I like it, because one, you're not afraid to open that type of conversation. Two, you care about what I think, how I think, which reveals a lot about my character, my personality, my mindset. So it's like the easiest way to get to know how people think. And you want to know that. You want to know that as soon as possible. Like, why wait like a month into it before you know their views? So jumping right into a conversation, asking direct questions, why not? That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. There is such thing as sharing too much. 'Cause okay, so I tell you my experience. I went out with this guy on that first date, and the entire time that we're on the date, he talked about alcohol. The whole time. He talked about how he day drinks, how he night drinks, which bars have the best drinks, how much he drank when he went to Ireland, drink, 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 and like 2 seconds of what he does for a living. But it was all like, oh yeah, on Tuesday night I was super drunk. We had a great time. I'm like, okay, so you drink on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? Okay, sweet, awesome. That was the only thing that he talked about. And he didn't even ask me anything. I'm surprised that he didn't ask me, do you like to drink? But he didn't ask anything else about me. He just talked about himself and what he drinks. So that was easy. It was very easy to understand, who he was, where he stood. The other guy, he was like a woman hater.
I imagine you probably run into at least one of those.
Like right away, he would start talking about how independent women are so bossy. They are so focused on their careers. They are not attractive. They don't care about family. They don't care about relationships. So like right away I was like, whoa, like you must have had bad experiences. Because I'm like, do you think all women that are independent have those traits? Like they don't care. Why would you think so? Then I realized that, it was his deep insecurities about himself. But that was the man, the woman hater. There was one actually that talked about UFOs and things that happen in space and the universe, and which I found it very interesting because
maybe that's
it was interesting. I mean, for a girl on her first date, it was more of a guy thing. The guys talk to each other, right? Like I thought it was more of that, but I appreciated that he shared that with me, that, he felt comfortable enough to talk about those things that he was into. It told me that he reads, which is good. It wasn't just something that he got on Reddit. Because, sure, once when he talked about a topic, I told him, I said, in order for me to believe you, I'm going to need a peer-reviewed article. Sure as shit, the next day he sent me a peer-reviewed article, which is good. He remembered the little details. But straight into the conversation is the best approach. What are you going to talk about? But then talking about your deepest fears or your trauma or all, I think it's, for me, I don't think it's okay to share on a first date or second date, for example. And I know this is not, oh my God, and I'm talking about it like the last 4 dates that I had were shit. Okay, so this guy, he's talking about his best friend committed suicide. So he talked about his friend's life struggles. Then he said that the tattoos that he had on his body, were about him. And then he also started talking about how many guns he has. So when I put all those together, I just got like in a very dark mood, kind of. Yeah. So that was a little too much.
So I never did this personally, but is there ever a time where you're having these conversations, like the woman hater, for example? Would you ever just get up and leave?
You're tempted to. I swear, I've been tempted twice. I haven't left. I haven't left because it depends where I am. So that's why coffees are so good, to have that preview, to go for a coffee before you actually restrict yourself, commit to a dinner where you just got to stay there until the dinner is over and he finishes all his 6 drinks. Like, it's just too much. So for coffee is good because when you start feeling that, then you can say, hey, it was so nice to see you. I had something planned. I got to go. I'll catch you later, right? But when you're at dinner, it's kind of weird to get up and leave him alone there. Like, you embarrass him, like in front of the waiters, the restaurant, other people there. So you kind of sit it out. But one thing that I do is that I don't react anymore. Like it becomes more of a like I just let you go. There's no point of having a conversation, expressing my views, pissing you off. I don't know what to expect there, so I'm going along until I leave. Yeah, but there have been a couple of scenarios where, unless it's something like the person is like extremely um, pushy or touchy or something that makes you feel really uncomfortable, then you're like, yeah, dude, I gotta go.
Yeah.
But if it's just his conversation or his mentality or what he's talking about, then if you don't agree, just I finish and I go.
Gotcha. So you've never done it before. Um,
Have you?
no.
What?
No.
Okay.
I never even
Like,
came.
how bad does a woman have to be for you to leave?
I don't think I've been on some pretty tough dates. Um, the only one, okay, so the worst one for me, I had just broken up with my girlfriend that I was with for a little while, and I was honestly desperate for anyone. So I was just messaging whoever, and someone was like, "Hey, we can hang out. You can come to my place." I was just like, "Okay, cool. I can just get this out of my system." So I go over there, and we we just talk, and then we play Mario Kart. She has a roommate, this guy roommate, and there's 3 dogs. So there's and 2 cats. So there's litter everywhere. There's pet hair everywhere. This place is disgusting. Like it smells bad.
Oh, God.
This is like projects apartment. And she also
Dude,
looked.
you were desperate.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And she looked nothing like her photo. Like
Dude, you even got catfish and you still went to her house?
it was bad. So we hung out, and the entire time I was like,
What do you mean by hanging out?
we were just in her room playing Mario Kart, talking stuff like that.
Okay.
And then eventually she relented, and we had sex.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, "Why don't you just stay the night?" And I was just like,
Oh,
"Fuck."
hell no.
I feel so awful.
Oh, God.
I got this out of my system, and now that I'm like, I have post-nut clarity, I have zero interest being here. But I didn't want to be that guy, so I stayed in this smelly, awful place.
Oh.
All night long, her roommate was throwing up because he had drank so much alcohol, so I got zero sleep. This was a work night. So at 6 a.m., I leave, go back to my apartment, switch clothes, go to work, and she starts texting me, and I'm texting back lightly, like every 3 hours for her to get the hint, and finally she stops texting me. But that's the only time where, in this situation, I was like, kill me, I can't do this. But I was so desperate. I don't ever want to be that person again.
I'm so glad you don't have to be that person again. I had one experience where I was stuck in a guy's house because his room was on the 3rd floor and he had roommates on the other floors, and I didn't know how to get downstairs to the, I had to like walk
Yeah.
in the middle of the night, and I mean, don't cuss me out, but if you didn't want to be that guy, I didn't want to be the girl that left in the middle of the night and left his door open. Like, I didn't want to just walk out at 1 a.m. and leave the door open, because I was like, that's not, like, it's not nice. Like, I wouldn't like my door open when I sleep.
Yeah.
And I was trying to wake this dude up, but I guess he had some back pain and he took painkillers, so there was nothing that could wake. Like, I could rob him blindly. Like, seriously, like, this guy would not wake up at all. So I tried so hard to wake him up and he just wouldn't. So I just laid there like this the entire night, like, oh my God, this is the longest night of my life. I couldn't sleep, I was uncomfortable, but I just didn't want to be the girl that left the door open. And of course, when I told him that in the morning, he said, oh, I wouldn't care. I was like, oh.
Guys don't care.
Yeah,
We don't care.
yeah, I'm never doing that again.
So so it sounds like, well, let me ask this. So will there ever be a time where the first date's like, hey, come to my place? You're like, okay, yeah, sure. For me, yeah, it happened a few times.
It depends what your intention is, because women, they know.
What their intention is?
Intention, yeah, on both sides.
You know, if a guy's inviting you to their place.
No. I'm not saying like when they ask you. I'm saying when you go to meet them. When, like, you always have intentions when you go to the date. So you as a guy probably have the intention of sleeping with her after, right?
Wait, are you talking about? So if I ask you, we're on the app. I ask you, hey, do you want to come to my place for a first date?
Oh, for a first date. Oh, I thought you said like after you have the first date.
That's
Do
my
you?
next question.
Oh,
That's
okay,
my
okay.
next
Yeah, yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I have been asked that. Do you want to come to my place? Not as a
And
first date, because there's no point of saying that. I don't think anybody has said as a first date, but
I did it.
okay. Did that work?
It worked a couple of times. I think it worked a total of
I
three
would consider
times.
it a date now. I mean, that's a
Well,
hookup,
I
like
guess like
straight up.
first time you hang out. I'll phrase it that way.
Yeah,
Would you ever hang out with somebody for the first time
no,
at their place?
no,
Okay.
no,
So
absolutely
after a
not.
first date, like so you're on your first date, you grab dinner, coffee, whatever it is, and they say, hey, you want to come back to my place?
That's where I'm saying that the intention has a lot to do. So if I am attracted to you and if I find you attractive and my intention was tonight I'm going to have sex, then I'd be like, sure. Because I had already made up my mind. I don't care if I see you the next day. I don't care if this turns into a relationship or not, if I continue dating you. My intention is that I want to have sex, so I'm just, yeah. And I
Okay.
like you enough. We have the chemistry. Sure. But
Okay.
if my intention is to date, to get to know you, and look into to at some point to build a relationship with someone, to have something serious, then no.
Does the guy paying for your meal affect that judgment at
Fuck
all?
that. No, no,
Okay.
not at all. Like I am not. I am old fashioned that way. Like that's how it's supposed to be. Like come on.
So
Know?
you expect the guy to pay for the first date?
I don't expect him, but it's something that he should be taught to do.
Okay.
I mean,
No, I agree. I always
I
pay.
always offer. Like I always offer to cover, my part. I always say, "Do you mind if I help?" Like that's how I say, "Do you mind if I help?" And of course, I pull my card or money out, whatever. And they're like, "No, I got this. Thank you." But I do let them know that I do not expect you to pay for dinner.
Gotcha.
But in a way, yeah.
So
I don't know how to go any further into that. I did date a guy for a short period of time actually that he paid for the dates, and I would offer, and he would say, "I appreciate you doing that," but then later on, he would kind of like let me know in subtle ways that I should not expect him to pay for dinners. I shouldn't expect him to cover, anything when we go out and we do something, which I didn't appreciate it. It's like,
huh.
okay, why didn't you let me, pay my stuff? But
Okay, so it doesn't matter if they paid or whether or not you went back to them. And you said something earlier about intentions. So if a guy, if a guy, let me say this actually. So I would 95% of the time ask the woman to come back with me every day,
yeah, why
every
not?
single
I mean,
time.
it's nothing to lose.
Yes. And so, but there were multiple times where I would invite them back and we wouldn't sleep together.
You
Or
wouldn't,
we would not. Or
because her choice, or
it was always her choice.
okay. What was I asking? Okay.
And so there are some nights where they would actually sleep in the same bed as me and we wouldn't.
Well, you just cuddle?
Yeah, we would make out, cuddle, whatever. And does that make me a bit of a pushover that I didn't push more? Maybe. But I was always big on consent. And if I got anything indicating otherwise, I backed up. But there were multiple nights where, they would come back to my place after the first date. We would go to my bed. We would make out. There was one instance where she actually slept naked in my bed, and we didn't. It was
What?
weird, but
What? The woman got undressed, got in your bed, and she wasn't expecting anything to happen.
I mean,
That's just how she sleeps, right? She sleeps
yeah,
naked.
yeah.
Okay.
So, whenever you're going to a guy's house, don't you kind of expect the expectation is you'll sleep with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you know what you want, I mean, it depends on how women want to present themselves to the guy. Some women are like very self-conscious, like, if I do this, he would think that. If I do that, because it's a lot of games, out there. There's a lot of ways to um, fuck with a guy's head or just be attracting a guy, in all kinds of different ways, manipulative ways. But if I come to your house after the date and you invited me over for a drink, I know what you're inviting me for because it's not the chit chat because we already chit chatted at dinner. If I'm saying yes, I'd like to, it's like it's on. Like that's the reason that I'm coming. If I say no, I don't think it's the right time, or a part of me would like that, but I'd like to take it slow, or this is too fast for me. I'd let the guy know that I am attracted to him, that I'm not rejecting him sexually, that I can see myself having sex with him at some point, just not right now because it's too fast. But I would never fucking go to a guy's house, say yes, and then have a drink with him, and then take my clothes off and get in bed and just be like, night night. Like, what the fuck?
So what the percentage? Oh, so first date, just first dates. You guys do whatever, and he's like, "Hey, let's go back to my place." You go back to his place. How? Give me a percentage of how many times you would end up sleeping with the guy. 50%, 60%. If you went back to his place
After the first date.
after the first date.
The percentage.
Yeah. How often would it happen? Every time?
When I meet a guy, a different guy.
No. So let's say you and I go on a date. I invite you back to my place. You come to my place.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did you sleep with a guy in that instance? Every time?
With that same guy?
With the same guy, yes.
I see him the next time, the next time, the
No.
next time? I don't get it.
The same day, Wednesday. We go on a date on Wednesday.
Right.
We grab dinner.
All right.
On Wednesday. I
And
say,
then I come over to your place.
on Wednesday, yes.
Uh-huh.
And how many times that same night would you sleep with the guy?
Oh, how many times will I have sex with him that
Yes.
night? As many times as it takes. I mean,
You would sleep with every single guy that you went home with that night.
What? You're confusing me. You're talking about the same guy. How many times will I have sex with him on that night?
No. The percentage of guys you went home with, how many times did you sleep with them?
As I said, if I went home with them, I have made up my mind to have sex with them.
So you did it every time?
Every time.
Okay.
Unless there were some major issues with them. And when you did it every time, okay? It sounds so hoish, and it's not. I would say that I will not go to their house. Like what I'm trying to say is that I would not go to their house, because if I made the decision to go to their place, or if I invited them to my place, if I said, hey, you want to come over, my intention is sex. And I'm not, unless you're giving me like very creepy bad vibes, or you have a super tiny penis, it's a deal breaker. Like, if we start fooling around and you're like very underdeveloped, then I would say that it would be a no. Sorry, I gotta go. Like,
Okay.
I gotta feed my cat.
Because I was curious, because it happened to me probably 7 or 8 times where they would come back to me and we end up not sleeping together.
They felt, they wanted to initially, but then they started getting a little like, oh, well, this means that I'm being easy and he's going to see me as somebody that just sleeps around. I don't want to give him that impression, because they probably liked you. Because usually girls would sleep on the first date with a guy that they don't really like, as far as long term. Like, if I find you attractive, I would sleep with you on the first date, but in my mind, I'm fine if I never see you again. Because I don't see you as long-term potential. I don't see you as a guy that I can build a connection with long-term. But I see you as hot right now, just too stupid to see you again. So I would have sex with you because I don't care what you think about me.
So you would have sex with the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Would you stay that night, or would you go home?
No.
Okay, always go home.
Well, when I was younger, and again, when I was dating, I was between 19 to 21 to 22 before I met my ex-husband. So in those times, yes, I have, because it depends how far I was from home, or if there was a party, and it was usually parties when you meet people in parties, so you just spend the night. But now, my age now, no, I can't. It's very hard to sleep with somebody that you don't know.
Mm,
It's not comfortable.
gotcha. So, would you be offended if the guy asked you to go?
Yes.
Okay, so what they should do is be like, "Hey, do you want to stay the night?" And then you make the decision.
No, they shouldn't even invite me to stay the night.
You
If
should.
they don't want me to stay the night, they shouldn't say it. Because
So you
the
should just let
guy
the night
that
play
I
out.
wanted to leave and I didn't want to leave his door open, I did not want to stay. But he was like, "Why don't you stay? Let's watch a movie." So in my head, I'm like, he wants me to spend the night.
So you would prefer if I didn't ask the question, if the guy didn't ask, and you just
What would you like to do? You can just say, well, usually, like the thing is, both people, after they have,
That's
like,
true.
you just
You're
know,
right, you're
they
right.
just give
That's
out
true.
those vibes.
That's true.
After you have sex, they're like, somebody's reaching for the cigarette or somebody's reaching for the underwear. If they're reaching for the underwear, business is done, we're going home. We're shaking hands.
Okay. Because my motto is I would always say, "Hey, if you want to stay the night, you can." I said that every time.
Did you want them to stay, or did you say to be nice?
I would say I did it to be nice every single time, and I would say out of all those, probably 10% I didn't want to stay.
Okay.
I like to cuddle, so I mean,
Okay. You're lame.
yeah, I am
There's
lame.
nothing wrong with it. I
Uh,
can't cuddle the first time with somebody. Oh,
I don't care.
yeah,
I'll do
maybe
it.
that's something I got to work on. But
It's-
I still see them as people that I probably won't see them again. So cuddling is like so intimate.
yeah,
Sometimes I think cuddling is more intimate than sex itself.
maybe. Maybe. I
Because
don't
you're
know.
not focused on action, it's just like feeling. And you're like feeling somebody that you don't even know.
It's like holding somebody.
It's
It's just like, hey, come on in.
Okay, so you should have really gotten more stuffed animals, like that would have.
Oh yeah, definitely. I had this stuffed blanket growing up that I clung
Gotcha.
to.
Gotcha.
So after you're done with the first date, whether you go home after you grab coffee, drinks, dinner, or you sleep with the guy, you go home.
Mm-hmm.
Should the guy send a "had a great night with you" text? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get. And before that, if you say you don't go to the guy's house after dinner, drinks, coffee, should
Well,
the
I'm not supposed to go to the guy's house. I mean, I'm saying the only time that I would go to the guy's house is because that's all I had made up my mind that I wanted to have sex.
so if you don't go to the guy's house,
If I want to continue dating you, I'm not coming to your house until I really get to know you and build something. As I said, usually sleeping on the first time you meet a guy, it's somebody you don't really like long term.
how about a kiss on the first date? That one,
That is controversial.
that's one
It's
I
like
struggle with the most.
It is, and I agree with you. I always struggle because it's awkward. It's so fucking awkward. Okay, so if we are,
I'm aware.
I know, it's like who goes first? Like you're like looking at each other, you have no idea how to approach it. But if we are having a nice dinner or whatever we're having, and within that time we're flirting, we're like really connected, we're like touching, like we're rubbing our knees or whatever.
So
like,
touching's a big deal.
we're just, if we have that, our body languages are showing that we're really into each other, then it's very normal to like walk out, with an arm around the person because you've already given them that permission. It's okay to be into my space. And then the kiss would happen organically. That would happen naturally. It's like, hey, good night, hey, I had a great time. Then you kiss. But if you had the formal interview-like type of conversation, no sparks whatsoever, and then I'm standing in front of my car door and I'm trying to get the fuck out of there, and you're kind of like grabbing both my arms and leaning towards me, it's like, ah! Yeah, that's when I'm like, I just put my hand on their chest and I'm like, had a great night.
So you've done that.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
90% of the time.
Because what would typically happen when I would go in for a kiss and a woman wasn't interested, she would go in for a hug, and
They need it more awkward. I know.
well, if that wasn't awkward enough, on 2 or 3 occasions, I would either, after that happened, kiss them on the cheek or forehead.
Oh, the forehead! I got kissed on the forehead once. I was like, oh, this guy must have a lot of respect for me. I'm like,
God.
it's so,
Never saw any of
but
them
here's
again.
the thing, though. How should we know that you're actually going for a kiss or if you're going for a hug? Because we don't know sometimes because the body language is kind of the same.
Stand in place.
Yeah, so how should we know that you're actually going for a kiss? There should be some type of signs there.
Just stand in place, see where the lips go.
Okay, so I shouldn't open my arms, get ready for an embrace, for a hug. I should just stay still.
Well, the thing is regardless of going in for a hug or a kiss, your arms are going to kind of go out unless you're wanting, I don't know. I mean, naturally, your hands would kind of go out for a hug or a kiss regardless.
But your head kind of goes like on the other, kind of go like this to hug.
Look, that's what makes it so awkward because it's a very difficult. So I would always, my go-to to go for a kiss, I would try and put my hands right on the hips.
Uh-huh.
That's where my hands are going. They can see my hands as I'm going in. And then if I see them put their arms up, I'm like, okay.
That's a hug.
Yeah.
Okay.
If their arms stay down, it's probably a kiss. Or if they tilt their head back, it's probably a kiss. If their head's not tilting up, if I'm not getting signs as I'm going in, I abort and go to a hug. If there's if there's any kind of like tilted head, hands are down, any inclination.
What about eye contact, like the
Oh,
facial
yeah.
expressions?
Well, that's the thing. I'm taller than of all but one woman I've ever been with, and she would always have to look up to me. So if she's looking up to me, she's craning her head back, which means kiss me.
Got you.
So
Okay. So for women for women at 5'3", dating somebody at 6'2", if we tilt our head back and we look up at him, we're waiting for that kiss, right?
oh yeah, I would go.
How
with
many
her.
women have you not kissed on a first date?
Oh, I mean, I would say out of all the dates I went on, I probably did not kiss 25 to 30%.
Because they didn't give you the vibe, or you just didn't like them enough?
I would say 10 to 15% was because I wasn't interested enough, and then, 15 to 20%, I just got vibes that they weren't interested. I'd say probably
Were those
split.
the ones that you ended up with the kiss on the cheek or the forehead?
God,
Were
no.
those included in that percentage?
Yes.
Okay.
Those, yeah.
Did you see them after that?
No.
Did you text them after that?
I texted them all, hey, I had a good time, blah, 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 and then I would not get anything back.
Oh, you would not get anything. Okay, so here's a question. What are the expectations of that kiss? Should you expect a kiss from a woman? Like, does it tell you anything if she kisses you on a first date or not?
So for me, I put no stock in any of the physical stuff, and let me break that down. So if someone kisses me on the first date, someone hugs me, someone sleeps with me on the first date, in every single one of those instances, I have slept with somebody, I have dated somebody, either short term or long term, or I've kind of hung out with the person or became friends with benefits. So in other words, there is no rhyme or reason of, okay, they didn't kiss me, so that means I'm never going to sleep with them. Or they kissed me, that means I'm never, that means they're going to sleep with me. Or if they slept with me, I'm not going to date that person. It's too easy.
So really a kiss is not like a big indication of continuing, of seeing each other or where this may lead you.
I will say out of all the women I dated, they all kissed on the first date. Actually, no, my fiance did not kiss me on the first date. I can't say that.
Damn!
I can't say that.
God, I love that girl.
Damn, she
See?
did not.
See?
I did go in, but she denied it.
And you still married her.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's not an indication.
I guess.
It's not an indication if somebody likes you or not. She was just not ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, you're
Wait,
right.
I thought you guys made made out for 2 hours on a first date. Was that the second date?
That was the yes.
third.
Yeah.
The second?
So we kissed the second date. The long makeout session was
on
the
the
third.
date. So
Yeah.
she wanted to test the waters first, and then okay.
Yeah.
See, so the first date, because I'm
You're
always
right.
like,
You're right.
I'm like, it doesn't mean that I don't like you. If I don't kiss you, it's because the moment might not be right. Like it might be awkward, or our first date was a little awkward. Like maybe you were too nervous, maybe I was too nervous. So we didn't really get that spark. And then probably when you walked me to my car, which that's another question I had, which I'm gonna get to it. But probably when you walked me to my car, there were people walking around. I just wasn't comfortable. Like it was just not the right place.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I don't like you.
Yeah, I'm not saying that was a death knell in all of them, because now that I'm thinking about it, there were a few that I dated casually that we didn't kiss on the first date, but it was more likely than not we would kiss on the first date if I did anything more than a date.
Right. So did you text the women after the date?
Every time, yeah. I would text them that night, and I would always include something I learned on that date.
Be like, oh, look at you.
Yeah, it got me a lot of brownie points.
Okay,
I had a lot of repeat
take
customers.
Notes, guys. Okay, always include
customers.
something that stood out. Sweet. I
And
like that.
and I would always walk the girl up to their car. I would always ask. I'd be like, as we're walking, she'd be like, "Oh, I'll be over here" or whatever. I would just follow. I would say, "Oh, I'll walk you to your car."
That's great.
If they said no, okay. If they said
Yeah, I always wondered, like, if I would walk out and they would just say bye, like outside the restaurant or something, they would say bye, I would take the not walking me to my car like an indication of I didn't like you. So I didn't know how that was. And I also would take the not texting me right after, like maybe like 15 minutes to 30 minutes after the date. If they wouldn't text me, I would take that as a cut. So
it sounds like the best thing to do as guys is whenever you get that date, stay in communication.
Keep in touch for simple things. Just, hey, I'm alive. Are you alive? We're both alive. And then maybe share like a little bit, or just maybe even jokes. Like I was talking to this guy that we shared some jokes and stuff, like funny things together, that we actually laughed a lot. So it just made me feel a lot more comfortable going to the first date. I'm looking forward to the first date.
Yeah.
Because it was nothing heavy or too serious. It was just jokes that just made me laugh.
And so, staying in contact that kind of kindles the fire, being open during the date, after the date as a guy, offering to pay, and then, as you're walking to the car, the ladies, says, "Oh, I'm over here," say, "Oh, I'll walk you to your car." If they say no, whatever, For me, I went for a kiss. Let me ask you this. When you went on a date, would you want the guy to go for a kiss?
I can't say that, because I don't know if I would be attracted to him.
Okay.
Like it depends. It's all about the attraction. I mean, the guy would know. You know when a girl is giving you the "I'm attracted to you" vibe.
I can't say that. I don't know
She
that.
might not give you the "I want to go home with you after this and sleep with you" vibe, but she'll give you the "you're cute" vibe.
Yeah.
Like eye contact or playing with her hair, or whatever girls do.
Yeah. Okay. So you get done with the first date. Date's over. You have a good time. You text, say, "Hey, I had a great time," blah, blah, blah. Next day comes around. When I have two different questions. One, when do you ask for the second date? Or two, if you're not interested, how do you cut it off? So let's start with the first one.
Well, I don't ask for the second date.
Okay, you're right. I asked for the second date.
Okay.
How would you like the guy to do that with you? Do you want us to do it on the date, that night, later in the week?
Actually, there was one time I was on the first date. I was at dinner with this guy that I ended up dating for a few months. Right in the middle of the conversation, we're actually having a great conversation. We found out we had some things in common, and we're like talking about those things, and we got very excited. We felt like, it didn't feel like we met online. It felt like we knew each other because of, those things that we had in common. So in the middle of that conversation, as we're like all worked up, he said, "Where should we go next? What should we do next?" So he was immediately planning, the next date. Like he wanted to see me again.
And you like that?
I did. I thought it was very like unplanned. It was spontaneous. It was genuine. It was like he said it. He was excited. So he's like, I want to continue this. I want to make sure that before she leaves, I want to make sure that I have another time.
Yeah.
So I think I like that. But yes, you have to plan. When you text thanks for the date, I had a great time, and the other person texts you back, so you're both on the same page, you both enjoyed it, meaning you both want to see each other. Within, maybe not right away, but the next day, you say, "I would like to see you again. When are you free this week?"
Gotcha. Because my go-to was always, after we get done with the date that night, "Hey, I had a great time. I loved hearing X about you. I would love to get to see you again if you have some free time sometime this week." Or next week, whenever it was, whenever we met. So that was kind of my way of going about it.
That's very sweet, actually.
And sometimes they'd be like, "Oh, I had a great time with you too," whatever, and they go to bed, and then I would typically. Is it better if the guy waits a day?
Yeah.
Damn it. Okay, because I did that. I would wait a day.
Here's the thing, and that's why I said, like, it's better to ask the next day, because most of the time on the first date, it's probably late evening. So when they say thank you, I had a great time, as you said, she was probably getting ready to go to bed. So she wasn't really she was cool. We just get the feeling of, all right, this went well. Okay, so we'll see each other again. But then we kind of ignore the rest of the things that you're saying. I would love to see you again, because we see it as part of what you are already saying. And we also see that you're excited. You're excited in this moment, and this comes out of your excitement. So it's more impulsive. But if you follow up the next day and you say, "Hey, when are you free this week?"
Okay.
Then we mean that, okay, he is serious about making another date. He's not just saying, "I would love to see you again." We'll see if that ever happens,
But I want to come off as super cool, like I'm so busy I can't text you the next day. It doesn't work.
You're so busy you can't text me.
So I just got so much going on in my life. Just
Then
such
you
a popular
should
guy.
really take care of your business, man. You shouldn't be messing with women.
Well, I meant that, like, so texting the next day is the best way to go.
If you're into the girl and if you want to have a chance to see her again, then why would you jeopardize that with any other overthinking? Especially if she didn't come home with you that night. Why would you want to ruin your chances of getting her home the next night?
Look, I didn't say I was the best of daters, okay? I made mistakes.
I'm just thinking in a way of, like, I'm thinking guys, like, sometimes, like, they get so excited, they get so into it, and then all of a sudden they just freak the fuck out and they just start pulling shit like, "I'm busy," or then you're like, okay,
So
why?
I think that getting into the what if you don't like the person, what's the best way to do it? The most common way is to ghost somebody, which to me I think is incredibly disrespectful. I mean, if you don't like somebody, how do you let the other person know? Do you ghost from time to time, or how do you go about it?
All right, so I don't know if I'm qualified to talk about ghosting, because I only learned what ghosting is about a year ago. I didn't even know what ghosting was, and I think I learned it the hard way. I was ghosted, and I didn't know, so I had to Google it. So I think ghosting is when you don't talk to somebody for 3 days straight, right? That's automatically you're ghosted, or is it when you're blocked?
Well, to me, whenever you get ghosted, if that person never texts you again, you go on the first date or you go on a second.
What's never? Like,
never.
How?
Never.
Okay, just never.
Don't,
okay.
yeah.
So if a week goes by and they text you the day after that week, is that still considered that you were ghosted for the past week?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how the young kids term it, but I think that's more like MIA. They went missing in action for a few days.
Okay.
To me, ghosting is you're gone. But I mean, in either circumstance, but either way, how would you tell somebody, "Hey, I'm out. I'm not interested"?
So I have told people after the first date if I saw something. So I don't usually make the decision if I want to see them again on that first date, but there's some people that you just know you're not going to want to see them again.
Yeah.
So when they ask me, when they say I had a great time, I'd like to see you again, I immediately tell them. I mean, I'm a grown woman. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to play, or I don't have to be too nice or protect their feelings. They're grown too. So I just tell them, hey, I did have a good time. However, I do not feel that I don't think I felt any connection,
Yeah.
or we were not on the same page.
Yeah.
I don't think we should see each other again. And
Okay.
I wish them the best with whoever, would fit them better, I guess. I don't know.
So you let them know. You told them, hey, not interested.
Yes, but I did ghost too. I did ghost one guy, the guy that talked about alcohol and drinking the entire time. After I got home, he texted me that he had a great time. He would love to see me again. And he said, and a kiss would not have been bad either. So he kind of pissed me off. Like, in a way, I was like, what? Like, you even thought that, like, you even got disappointed. You're expecting me to kiss you. You didn't even ask anything about me. Like, all you talked about was yourself. So I didn't feel like, maybe it was wrong, but I didn't feel like he deserved an explanation.
So with those guys, the two that you ghosted, would they keep texting you, trying to get you to text back?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. And then for the guys that you told them, hey, I'm not interested, how did they take it? Was it always
Not
positive?
good.
Really?
No, and I was surprised
Wow,
because I was very
okay.
nice. Like, I mean, what do you expect? You only see me once, Like, I hope you don't have such high expectations of this. But no, they were like, they wanted to know why. Like, why? What was it? Did I say something wrong? Did I offend you? Were you not attracted to me? Well, you don't know me yet. Why don't you give me another chance? So they would kind of be pushy, and that's when you're like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. I'm just not interested in you. And then if they would continue, I would just block them because
Interesting.
they would not take it well.
Huh.
Like, maybe one person that I told them that I was not interested in seeing them, maybe one person said, well, thank you for the honesty. I wish you great luck with, your search. And I said, thank you, same to you. And we complimented each other for our values, for our, characters, but we're not a good match. So it was probably like one or two that were mature enough to, the other ones were like, what? Like,
Huh.
what do you want me to say, dude? Like,
So in my experience, I would say, at some point, whether it be the first, second, third, wherever, I would get ghosted 90% of the time. They would just stop texting. There were 2 or 3 times where they would text me and be like, hey, I'm not interested, I had a good time, blah, blah, blah. And I would always say, you know what, I had a great time as well. Thank you for letting me know. If you ever want to get back together or hang out again, I'm more than happy to. Only
so you
one.
left that door.
Yeah. Only one came back. Only one came back after that. 2, actually. 2 came back.
That's good.
So, and then there were some times where I had to cut it off. And I was always, and I can think of this one person in particular. She was really cool, funny, beautiful. She was very religious. Easy to talk to, funny. But it didn't connect. There just wasn't, for whatever reason, there just wasn't that connection. And, I sent her the same text I send everyone I cut it off with, but I was like, hey, look, I thought you were a great time. You're beautiful. You're witty. You're fun to be around. I enjoy talking to you. You're a great sounding board.
The list of compliments, man.
Well,
Like,
because it's never...
You're a star, but I don't like stars.
It's just...
That's how it sounds.
Well, I would tell them, I didn't feel it. And I would always say, I don't know what it is, but I didn't feel it. And I respect you. I don't want to waste your time.
Yeah.
To the extent you want to keep hanging out, I'm more than happy to. But just know that it's not, I didn't find it.
Right.
And, every time they would all be very... thank you for letting me know. I appreciate it. Good luck to you. I'm happy I'm glad you're up front.
Yeah,
whatever
I think
it was.
women are more. They're.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Absolutely. One
They're
hundred percent.
nicer because women really like the honesty.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as it would hurt us to know that the guy that we were into is not into us, there's nothing that hurt us more than dragging us on and not telling the truth. When you say, hey, I had a great time, but you're not really what I have in mind.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, we're like, hey, you saved me so much time and so much headache. Women appreciate it. Guys, I think, is their ego.
Yeah.
I think guys don't deal with the rejection as well because, especially if they think that they're like all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely an ego thing. But I mean, I think that's it for the very first date.
Yeah. Yeah. So out of 80 women that you took home after the first date. So my question is this: if you sleep with a woman on the first date, does that impact the way that you see her, like as far as a relationship potential?
It doesn't to me, and it's funny because, a vast majority of all the women I slept with on the first date, they would say, "Oh, I don't do this every time." Like, always.
Because it's like, I mean, we're told that's how it is. We're told that you sleep with somebody on the first date, you're never going to see them again because they're not going to think highly of you. Which I think is bullshit. My ex-husband, we slept together on the first date. Well, it wasn't the first time I saw him, but it was our first official date, and we got married 2 years later. So it didn't impact how we looked at each other, but is it true that you would think of a woman that sleeps with you or is it important to you that she may be doing this with the other 3 guys that she's dating at the same time?
I never worried about the other guys. Never did. Never thought about that. Because to me, I'm as good as it gets. So if you're messing around with other people, you bad judge of character on your part. I never thought about, okay, they're seeing other people. That just never crossed my mind.
I mean, there probably are.
Absolutely,
You're probably
100%. But what I don't know,
at least 3 others at the same time, right?
probably.
2, let's say. I mean, it just gets like super stressful to do more than 2.
It does nothing to think about that though. What I don't know doesn't hurt
No,
me.
not think about that, but think, okay, this woman, I'm liking her, but like she's so quick to sleep with me and she's so quick to sleep with everybody else. Like, does that show? Is that part of character for her? Is that
No.
something that you see that I don't see marrying this woman because she slept with me on the first night, so she probably does it with everybody else?
Go for it. I'm all about, when you're young, have sex with as many people as you want. I frankly don't care.
Would you see her as a relationship potential,
Yeah.
long-term partner?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that she didn't have any morals or values because she slept with you on the first date.
Again, so let's just say that this person has slept with 1,000 people, whatever.
Yeah.
I have enough faith in me and what I bring to the table that if she chooses me and I choose her, she's gonna know I'm as good as it gets.
Okay.
That was my philosophy. So, let's just say that she's dating 10 guys at the same time she's dating me. And I would tell her, hey, look, I think you're cute. Let's date. Let's go steady. Whatever. I wouldn't worry a day after that because, 1, I know what I bring to the table. And 2, if she's stupid enough to make a decision to sleep with someone else, that's not the person for me because they're a bad judge of character. So I'm overly confident in myself. When I went into every single first date telling myself, look, it is my goal to be the best first date that she has. If she hates it, so be it. If she loves it, cool.
This is so powerful. This is like the best view that I have heard ever. Like a guy that just says, I don't care if you're sleeping with 10 other people. I have the confidence to know that once you meet me and once you are with me, you don't need anything else.
Well,
if you do, it has nothing to do with me. Like, it's just something that I'm not lacking anything. It's you who's lacking something.
And I think a more men and women should be confident in who they are.
Yeah.
I think men and women should, go into a first date being who you are.
Yeah.
Don't hide anything. I think it's just important to be yourself. If someone likes you for you,
Yeah.
that's all you need.
Yeah.
So,
It's just how what society puts, it's still the judgment.
yeah,
Society judges women when it comes to their sexuality.
I agree.
And that's something that we have to make sure that we talk about because it's a big thing. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about equality, we're talking about all these things, but one thing that we're not equal on is still our sexuality and who makes the decision to be in a relationship.
And I will say that when it comes to women and sexuality and how society sees them, I'm aware of it. But as a man, I will never understand it. Because you could tell me everything you've been through as a woman when it comes to sex. I mean, anything as a woman, frankly.
Yeah.
As a guy, I'll never fully grasp it. So it's just important to me to be aware of it.
Right.
But I will never understand it because if I sleep with 1,000 different people, no one gives a shit. No one cares.
So what if your woman tells you that she has slept with 150 people in her lifetime? What would you think of her?
I have dated women that were in the hundreds, and I didn't care. It didn't matter.
Would you marry them? Would they be the mother of your children?
It's hard for me to say because,
Oh.
no. It's hard for me to say because who I'm currently with, it's not like that at all. And I've been with a bunch of people where they've slept with multiple people, and obviously I haven't stayed with them. So,
Do you think that because your fiance is the good girl, do you think is that the reason that, not that the reason, but one of the reasons that you decided she's the one for me?
let me put it to you this way. It
Put
doesn't.
it like straight because women need to know. We need to know how guys see this.
I'll put it to you straight. Just the fact that you've slept with one other guy other than me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel the same way about someone sleeping with one other guy as someone sleeping with 300 other guys. It's just the fact that there's somebody out there that's also slept with this person. It doesn't matter how many's out there. So
Just the idea that the person that you love, somebody else got to experience that.
yes,
That gets you. It's not that it makes you judge her, but it makes you wish that you were the only one.
absolutely. I mean, and again, I don't care that people sleep with as many people. All I'm saying is the feeling I get with someone sleeping with one person is the same. It doesn't impact
It
me.
doesn't impact. The number is not what impacts you. It's the fact that when you truly love somebody, you just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and you'll get a lot in the first date. You're not going to get it all, but like you said, you can typically feel something. There's
Yeah.
something there, and it's just about going and being confident in who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, did we cover everything?
I think that we did. I don't know. I think talking about
Yes, we did.
the first dates is very important because I think that's one of the most difficult things to do, especially when you're going into the dating world or you're not confident in who you are. Because frankly, me going on as many dates as I did built my confidence. So it's just interacting with people and learning how to interact. So
It can, yeah, I agree. It can build your confidence, but it can also hurt your confidence as well. That's why I
Yeah.
think online dating is seen as such a hatred place because because you have so many options, you also have to deal with a lot of rejections.
mm-hmm.
So it kind of messes with your self-confidence as well, and that's why I think it's a good thing that we're talking about these things openly, because we tend to internalize the rejection and we tend to think there's something wrong with us if we were not the person that they preferred to see, to have a relationship with. But there could be so many other reasons that have nothing to do with us. And like you said, what you're looking for, what you see in the person, it might have nothing to do with what I think you do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of misconceptions there. a lot of things that women misinterpret on what the guy's trying to do or trying to say, and vice versa. You're misinterpreting what a woman is saying or doing. So,
And that's why we're having the tough conversations.
yeah.
So you go on the first date, it goes great. You're going to meet this person a second time. That'll be what we talk about next time.
Catch you later.